This video will go over what solutions to quadratic equations are. So we're going to start off by looking at a graph. So in class, when we graph quadratics, we call those parabolas. And those are U-shaped curves. Okay, so something like that. Now, so far, we've only talked about the vertex. We said the vertex is important. Okay, and the vertex is sort of that turning point. So here's the vertex in this particular graph. Now, we're going to kind of shift our discussion over to something that we call solutions, hence the name of this video. Solutions are where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay, so this is a solution. And this is a solution. Now, we're going to focus just now on looking at solutions of graphs. Later on, we will look at solving quadratic equations if we don't have a graph. Okay, because we won't always have a graph. We can't always use a calculator. And eventually, we get to graphs that might not have a solution. Okay, so we have a few things about solutions that we need to talk about. So, a solution, first off, let's give it a definition, is where the quadratic equation crosses the x-axis. Okay? Or crosses the x-axis. So notice how at this green dot here, we cross the x-axis. At this green dot here, we cross the x-axis. Now, it has some other names that you must be familiar with. Okay? The amount of times I hear, well, Mr. Herman, I didn't know it was that. If I said it solution, I would have gotten it. That's great, but you have to know all the names. Okay? So it's also called a root, an x-intercept, because it crosses the x-axis. And it's also called a zero. Okay? So we talked about solutions graphically. A zero, you need to think about what do we set all of our equations equal to? When we are in standard form, when we're in vertex form, we want our equations to equal 0. That's why it's called a zero. When the equation equals 0, you have a 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at a couple more graphs just so we know that we have down what our solutions are. There we go. Put two more on here. Okay, so let's look at this first graph. Now, the solutions, we'll highlight in green, because that's what we've been doing so far. Remember, a solution is where we cross the x-axis. I'm going to add a note here. It's also when y equals 0. Okay? So we know if we have an x-intercept, that means that we're on this line here. That means that y equals 0. Okay? So here are our solutions in green. Those are our x-intercepts, our roots, our solutions, our zeros. And we have 2. Okay? That makes sense. Let's come over here. We're looking for x-intercepts, our roots, our zeros, our solutions. We have one right here because we cross the x-axis. We come back around, we cross the x-axis again. And we have 2 solutions. 2 roots. Now down here. Now this one, you might think there's more than one, but I'm going to say that there's only one right here. Okay? There's only one time where this parabola crosses the x-axis. Is that a problem? No. We're just going to say it has one x-intercept. Or we could say it has one solution, one root, or 1, 0. These mean the same thing. You do not have to say all of them, but they mean the same thing. And our last one, does this cross the x-axis? No. So what would we say? It has no solutions or no roots. Okay? All four of these words mean the same thing, and it tells us how many times does a parabola cross the x-axis. You got a few questions to answer about solutions.